Hi, welcome to the Shepherd Podcast. I'm Pastor Chris. I'm your host. Thank you for joining us today. The podcast is a great way to familiarize you with some of the people at Shepherd of the Hills, our church, school, and childcare. So many great people here who are a part of the ministry, and I'd like for you to get to know them better. Today, I'm really pleased to introduce you to someone who has been a part of the ministry here for quite a while. We're going to talk about his history at Shepherd as well as some other parts of his life. And so I'm delighted today to welcome Steve Deskin. Steve, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yes. And so let's talk a little bit about your involvement at Shepherd and just start out by asking, what do you love most about Shepherd of the Hills?
Well, I guess to start out, I want to tell you why I'm wearing this hat. This is my COVID hat. It's based upon Proverbs 3:5, one of my favorites. And some people don't even know me without this hat, so I thought I would wear it for that reason. And also a shout out to the parking lot ministry team. And I guess that leads into why I like this place so much, because really Shepherd of the Hills has been family to me. And I'm not quite sure when I hear people say, I believe in God, but I just don't go to church, because as a part of the body of Christ, there's so much support when you're a part of a church. And I have felt that here for 42 years now. 42. I have friends that I know would be in my corner in a minute if I needed some help with something, some wisdom. And I've received that tenfold here. And that's a reason why I've wanted to return that and get into some of the ministries and things that I've done at Shepherd of the Hills over the years. A lot of things that I've been involved in and blessed to be able to do. When I had my older children here, I was a part of Sunday school, teaching a little bit. Way back then, there was kind of a liaison between Sunday school and the two youth groups. I think it was called Parish Education. And I worked closely with Frona McGuire. And I would get my money from her and allocate it the way that it was needed in those different groups. And that was really interesting, just working with a lot of different people. Yeah. We had a committee, and we would work closely with those groups and seeing how we could improve them, make them better, help them in any way that we could help and support them. So that was one area that I did, way back in the 80s, I guess it was. I've been a part of the Stephen ministry team here. Right. At the time that I was there, the other man that was a part of that was Bill Stetler.
That's right.
And what wisdom to be able to get just working with him. Yeah. And that was a ministry that really kind of took off things for me and really discovering where God wanted me to work and serve. I really was blessed to be able to work with people that needed comforting. We saw people that perhaps had a loved one that passed away, or maybe they had cancer or financial difficulties or family issues, and just to be able to go in and tell them that God still loves them and God is still there, and God listens to you and hears all of your prayers. To be able to do that for people, I felt the presence of the Holy Spirit, because it wasn't me. I felt that the Spirit was always giving me the words to say to these people, and I received as much of a blessing as I hope that they received. From Stephen Ministry, I actually, even before Stephen Ministry, I did my first stint with eldering. So I was an elder probably in the 80s as well. Back when Art Coates was one and Griff Wooten was one, and we were still a fairly young church. And I'll never forget Pastor Dan, one elder meeting back then on that group. It was mentioned in the meeting, I like our church small. I hope it doesn't grow too big. And Pastor Dan, I'll never forget these words. He said, it's not up to us. It's up to God. And you can see now what God has done with Shepherd of the Hills. But and I think I was an elder for the full time that you were here. I was on the board of elders and had to leave just because of term limits. I was, this time it was 12 years that I was on. But eldering was sort of like Stephen Ministry in a way, because we did talk to people that were hurting often, quite often, but we also were fortunate enough to be there when there were marriages and baptisms and some of the great things that happened in their lives. So been blessed to be able to be a part of many things at Shepherd of the Hills, but so many friends and so much support, and that's why I love this church.
And you certainly been a big part of making it a great church with the ways you've been involved for 42 years. That's quite a while. Fantastic. Well, I'd like to go back a little bit further and talk about your upbringing and the things that have made you the person that you are today. And I hope that you'll include a little bit about baseball in there, because I'd like for people to know that baseball was a part of your life and some of the things that you did in that realm as well. So your upbringing, your background.
I was actually born in Floresville, Texas. I think Ashley knows where that is.
Absolutely.
But I was the second in our family. I have an older sister. She was born in Pleasanton, and then I was born in Floresville 2 years later, and Dad said, we got to get out of this town. I can't find enough work. So I never did really live there.
Okay.
And I have a younger sister that was born in Jourdanton, so we still kept our roots back in that part of Texas.
Yeah.
Jeannie and her son Paul actually come to Shepherd of the Hills.
Right. Yeah.
My older sister, it would be a long drive from North Carolina, so she has been away for over 20 years now. Okay. I grew up just north of downtown, near San Pedro Park. That was my playground.
Oh, that's a nice place.
And loved that area.
Yeah.
I was always at San Pedro Park. And it was very meaningful because there were many things in that area that we got involved with. But Mom was a real avid reader. And she would at least drag me, because I wasn't too interested when I was a little kid in reading. She would say, no, you need to check out some books. I don't care if it's about dogs or horses, you need to get a book. So she really taught us all that reading and education was very important. Yeah. She took us to the San Antonio College Planetarium, and we really enjoyed that. San Pedro Park, one day I was with Dad. We were probably coming from a haircut because, he wanted to always give me a buzz. And, I'm a 60s kid, so, growing hair was kind of the thing to do. And we were driving by San Pedro Park, and I saw a bunch of boys playing baseball. And I said, Dad, I want to do that. And little did I know at that time, I was 7 years old, he played ball. So he got me into a league. It was CYO, actually. Mm-hmm. And that was a beginning of pretty much taking over my childhood.
Really?
I played ball from 7 until well into my 30s, I guess. So many good memories in baseball. Growing up, I had the privilege to be on such good teams, especially when I got into my teenage years. I played Babe Ruth League, and there were 2 Babe Ruth senior leagues. One was Southside, and we were Northside. And actually, our field was a long way from my house, but I was able to play on that team. We went to the Babe Ruth World Series 2 times. Wow. And one of those years, we were 1 game away from winning it all. But Seattle, Washington beat us in a doubleheader, 2-1 and 2-1. And crushed us. Close. Yeah, we were so close. But just getting to those points was just so much fun, winning in Texas, and that took a while. Oh, right. Just to get out of Texas was hard enough, but it was so much fun, and it taught me so many different things about teamwork and good sportsmanship and how to win, how to lose, especially when you get close to a championship, how to lose. Yeah. So just so many good memories. And
can I stop you there and ask a question? Mm-hmm. So how do you lose? You said you learned how to win and how to lose, because I think that's something a lot of people may struggle with. The winning part, well, that's easy. That makes you happy. How did you learn how to lose?
That's a real tough one, because I'm like my mother. She wasn't a very good loser either. Yeah. You learn the wrong ways to lose. And fortunately, I had some good coaches that would talk to us about how to lose and how to be humble and how to congratulate the winning team. It makes you a better person sometimes when you lose, because then you want to get better. When you win, you think you're already there all the time, and sometimes that can hinder the next year even. Right. But no, it is important to learn how to lose as well as win, be a humble winner as well. Right. And baseball continued to be such a big part of my life. Did well in high school, but I needed to have a scholarship because we wouldn't have been able to afford college. Okay. And I believe this: God puts people in our path for a reason. And I didn't have plan B. Baseball was going to be it. And I had a friend that I played high school ball with, and he said, let's go to some of the camps and see if we can, work our way into a college. So we got into my 62 Corvair, and it broke down in New Braunfels. We were going up 35 to Temple. And we literally opened the hood and banged around a little bit, got it started, went back up 35, made it to Temple. And long story short, I had a good weekend. He didn't have quite the weekend, I guess, that he wanted. But I had a good weekend, and the coach said, if you make the team, I'll see that everything's paid for.
Oh, wow.
And I made the team, and those were probably the best 2 years of my baseball career. It was just really exciting, and I thought I was on my way. And I got a scholarship offered to Pan American in the Valley to finish school. And things kind of changed a little bit. There was a different strategy at that school. The coach platooned, which means, he used 2 players at pretty much all positions except up the middle, short and second, center, catcher. And it really, it hampered me. I was used to playing all the time, every inning.
What position were you mainly?
Third base.
Third base.
And I did okay, but I didn't think my performance was really what I wanted it to be to go on to the next step. Mm-hmm. And I continued playing and finished school and everything. And the interesting thing is I was in a final exam, and I get called out. The professor said, you have an emergency phone call. And I said, gosh, who died? That's the first thing you think of. And it was my father, and he called me saying, in San Antonio at that time, the Double-A team was Los Angeles Dodgers franchise.
Okay.
And he said, the Dodgers want to give you a tryout.
Oh, wow.
And so, of course, I was supposed to go take my final after that.
Yeah, how do you even concentrate after that?
So I thought about it, and, I'll tell you what happened at the end of our interview, because I think that's something that will come up later on.
Okay. Well, we'll wait in suspense then. So let's go forward a little bit. I want to talk about your teaching career. Would you tell us what you did in your career and where you did it and what you enjoyed about it?
Well, I taught physical education. I was an elementary PE teacher. Uh-huh. And the interesting thing is I would have never thought in a million years that would have been my profession.
Really?
In fact, in college, I started out as a business major, I started out as education, then switched to business, then went back to education. I couldn't make up my mind. I finished with education, and when I got out of college, I got into business. So I still was confused on what I wanted to do, and I was in sales for about 8 years.
Oh, okay.
But God had other plans for me, and I believe this wholeheartedly, that he gave me enough talent in baseball because he had plans for me to be a teacher. And it wouldn't have happened because I wouldn't have been able to go to college unless I had the ability to play ball or something else.
Sure.
But I got into education. In fact, I didn't even know where I wanted to be in education. But I did substituting for a year and a half. And I went to high schools, I went to middle schools, I went to elementary, and I fell in love with elementary. Yeah. And I said, that's what I want to do. And so I began my career in 1988. I did 1 year at 2 different schools, and then Thornton Elementary opened up in 1989, and I was able to be one of the people that started that school, and that was very interesting and loved my job.
Yeah.
Sandy said, I envy you because you get up in the morning and you just can't wait to get to work. I loved working with the kids. Wow.
And you were there your whole career, right?
I was at that school for 28 years.
Yeah. So you're a man who knows something about longevity, whether it's at the church or in the workplace, but you're the type to stick with it.
Mm-hmm. And loved my job. Teaching sports was kind of my philosophy in teaching physical education. Was a little bit different than I guess some. I use sports as an instrument to teach people to be active. But my main interest in my job was helping the kids build character and sportsmanship, how to lose, how to win. One thing, if you ask any of my ex-students, they heard me talk about integrity all the time.
Really?
I ask them, what does the word integrity mean? And elementary kids, when you first ask them, that's a tough one.
Yeah.
And I would tell them, doing the right thing when nobody's looking.
Yeah.
I would explain it that way, and I would say, when I'm looking right at you, you're probably going to behave, but when I leave the room, what are you going to do? And just talk about things like that. And when kids would get into arguments, believe it or not, I love those opportunities because that was an opportunity to teach character and how to learn how to deal with people in situations, because we're going to live with people all of our lives, and we have to learn how to get along it. So usually throughout my career, I had a teaching partner, so I could take them into the office and have a little discussion and try to have them, depending on their age, have them solve it. But I would kind of, prod them along and help them along.
Sure.
Even talking with parents that were a little upset with me, I would welcome those opportunities because it gave me the opportunity to tell them about what we did.
Sure.
Because a lot of people didn't really understand what we were trying to do, at least what I was trying to do with my program. They thought it was just about teaching them football and baseball and volleyball and, those sort of things, and that was it. But to me, it was much, much more.
So we've talked about your career. Let's go on a more, you made your career a personal thing because you were developing the kids personally, but your personal life, can you tell us a little bit about your family?
Certainly. I have a lovely wife named Sandy. We have been married for 26 and a half years now. And I have 3 children, two older. My oldest son is 45, and my daughter's 43. And then Isaac is at home, and he is 16, going to be 17.
And he's 6'2.5"?
6'2.5", and just got his learner's permit
to drive. Look out, world.
So, yes, he's excited about that. Me, kind of, sort of.
Well, as any parent. Yeah.
I have 4 grandkids, 3 grandsons, and 1 little princess, 1 granddaughter. So very blessed in that respect. Yes.
Absolutely. That sounds like my household, 3 boys and 1 little princess. Yeah. Now, you've reflected, I can hear your faith coming out when we're talking about various things, about God's plan for your life, integrity, very much a Christian value. But let me just ask you, more directly, how have you seen God at work in your life? How has your faith helped you in your life through challenges, through difficult situations you face? How has your faith helped you?
I don't know where I would be today if it wasn't for my faith, because God has been my strength. he's been the one that has given me peace in very difficult seasons in my life. I know he listens to me when I'm crying out. He's there and he comforts me, and I know I have felt, we talk about the peace that surpasses all understanding, and I know I'm one of the fortunate ones that has truly experienced that, because there have been seasons in my life where, I was just crushed. Isaac is adopted, and that's probably too long of a story to get into on this segment, but it took us 8 years to get him. And many challenges along the way. And until we literally got on our knees and cried out, still gets me.
Yeah.
If you want us to have children, you're going to have to drop one on us. And God answered. He was there. And I can remember being in church and tears would come down my eyes because we were going through such a difficult time. And then I would hear the sermon or hear some scripture, and his spirit would just comfort me. And that's a living God.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. On a lighter note, what are some things you do for fun?
For fun? Well, actually, I played softball for Shepherd of the Hills, too. For years, there was a softball team here. And in fact, Sandy and I met on a softball field.
Oh, okay.
And our groom's cake had a softball and a baseball on it. But she was quite a softball player, by the way.
Oh, okay.
But my softball days are over. I was working with Isaac for many years in baseball, and he was a pretty good ball player himself. But in summers, when I would be off in summers, Isaac and I, unfortunately, Sandy was still working, but Isaac and I would go visit all the caves in Texas. We would go to different state parks. I love to hike, and he enjoys hiking too. I love to bike. I have a mountain bike, and I've been all over O.P. Schnabel trails and McAllister and different areas. I take my bike when we go to state parks as well, and just love to get on the dirt.
Yeah.
I don't like the cement or the pavement.
Yeah.
I like the dirt trails, and that's a lot of fun. So, and I can't wait till Sandy retires because we want to travel more.
Yeah.
We haven't been able to travel too much, but can't wait to travel with them as well.
Excellent. Now we need to circle back. You left us in suspense at a certain story, so we need to make sure we complete that.
Well, so Dad calls me and he says, you have a tryout with the Los Angeles Dodgers. And that seemed and should have been real exciting for me, and it was initially, but when I went back in and finished my final exam, I thought about it, and I prayed about it, and really it wasn't God's plan for me, and I kind of, referred to that earlier. God had a different plan for me, and his plan for me was to be with kids and in education. And I didn't know it then, but I just had the feeling, and I also knew, because of my last 2 years not being quite what I wanted it to be, I said, I don't, look back and regret not making that choice.
So you declined the opportunity.
But I didn't even go. Yeah. I'm curious, and that's kind of where it ends. I'm curious to know what would have happened if they would have been interested or what. Yeah. But I really don't have any regrets because I loved my career. Yeah. And it gave me so many opportunities with kids. And another thing about school that I wanted to make sure I mentioned, our community, and Pastor Dan used to live not too far, and he's even spoken of this before. Whatever kind of worship center you go to, it's in our neighborhood. Oh, yeah. I mean, it's anything you want, it's there. In fact, there's 3 Indian churches being built within a half a mile of our house. Wow. One just, 50 yards from our house, and then 2 in our neighborhood, and every other kind of religion or belief that you can think of. So we have had a lot of people of Buddhist belief. We've had a lot of Muslims move into our neighborhood and go to our school. Mm-hmm. And I saw this happening, and I guess it was then, and probably about 5 years before I retired, and I said, I'm going to take a chance because, as a public school teacher, you're not supposed to talk about Jesus. So I found out a way to do it. First of all, if the opportunity ever presented itself, for example, if a kid came up to me and said, Mr. Deskin, I just got baptized, I'm not going to leave that alone. Right. So, I would have a conversation with that child. But then I took a chance and I said, okay, do kids know why they're off on Good Friday? And I would tell them what I believe. And I said, you and your family may believe differently, and that's okay. You have that right as an American citizen. But this is the way I believe and why I believe this way. Mm-hmm. And I want you to know why you're off, because, that is how it got originated. And then it leads to Easter. And I actually had one boy from Syria. He said, can I talk to you more about that Jesus? And wow. I said, this is okay. Yeah. And I made sure that he knew, that this is the way I believe, and this is why I believe, and maybe your family believes differently, but this is what makes me tick.
Yeah,
okay?
Yeah.
This is my strength and my peace, my inner peace. Yeah. Never did hear from his parents, so I guess it was okay, or even if he went home and told his parents, but hopefully that happened, that there was a beginning, a seed.
You plant the seed and the Holy Spirit will take it from there.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, Steve, I want to thank you for this conversation. This has been a real joy. I think it's been a home run, actually. It's been a delight to get to visit and reflect on the things that God has done in your life, and God is still doing many great things in your life. You're bringing communion to people and serving here in various ways and making a great difference. So thank you, Steve, for this time and for all that you do for our church.
Thank you for being our pastor.
It's a great pleasure. And thank you all for watching the Shepherd Podcast. I hope you'll join us next time as we continue to get to know our congregation and our Shepherd community. Until then, the Lord's blessings to you, and may He give you health and safety and great joy. And the peace of the Lord be with you today.